Well, welcome again, folks. It's another glorious day here in the bunker on the Fleurieu Peninsula. It's a bit windy. We've had a bit of rain, which is really good, so things will freshen up fairly quickly. So life, other than the obvious, is ticking along okay. In this session, Brad's going to do most of the talking, and he's going to go over the maintenance of your camera gear for you. A lot of this will be basic, and a lot of it may go a little deeper. I've left my gear out here as well that he was making.
You just want a free clean, don't you?
He was making a few disparaging comments about my gear before, so
dirty. Look at that. Look at fingerprints.
Over to Brad.
Look at this. Thank you, Grant.
Okay. Well, Brad, you said it was a bit grubby. So
oh, jeez, no, whoa. Hey, no. Put the rag down. Put it down, Grant, put it down. No, put it, camera on the table.
What do you mean?
No, you're not drowning the camera. What we've got here is true camera gear, Grant. True camera gear here.
Would you like me to wash yours as well?
No, you keep away from my camera gear. So the first thing that I would do is get all your gear out onto a table. So pull everything out of your bag. So what we're going through today is how to properly clean your equipment. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can clean your equipment. I prefer to just use very lightly, Grant, very lightly damp cloth. I usually use microfiber towels, or if you're actually if you're on location in a hotel or motel room, you can actually just use one of their towels. So I find I've sort of done a lot of photography in sandy and dirty and wet and grimy places. Iceland was especially a very wet place with all the waterfalls that they have over there, and getting out in amongst a lot of nature photography, you can end up with quite often a bit of grime on your equipment, and you don't actually realise that your equipment is dirty. And how many times has somebody handed a camera over to me? So we've got an empty bag now. So how many times people have handed a camera to me and it's just all choked up with grime. So what I normally do is, where'd my pot of water go?
Oh, you want it back?
I want to be able to dip you've taken my water away. I need a little bit in the bottom, thank you, Grant. So like I said, microfiber towels are great. Also I use cotton tips. These are fantastic for camera equipment like this one here, which has a fold out screen. And what can happen is in behind the screen, you can get little sand granules and a bit of grime, especially if you've been shooting very low to the ground, which quite a lot of my photography has been shot fairly low. And you only need just a very slight breeze and you'll end up with little granules and muck in underneath your screen. So I find that these are absolutely fantastic for getting any grime. And all you need to do, which I do with my lenses, is just to very slightly. So I've dipped the end in and then just work it into the fibre cloth. Our cameras are very good as far as being fairly watertightly sealed. A lot of the lenses now, it's remarkable, the new cameras now.
That range of Nikon's all weather sealed, isn't it? That's all.
All weather sealed.
Yeah.
Or most of your name brand stuff has got very good sealing.
Yeah. Some people, I've heard some people question the need for that. They're not going to
go to Iceland.
Well, yeah, and even anywhere.
Feel that, Grant.
Yeah.
So it's only just moist.
Yep. But if you're, for example, folks, if you're you've been out shooting in you're caught in the shower, right? You've got a shower jacket on. So you race back to the car, you throw open the car door, you're going to throw your camera off your neck and put it on the seat, rip off your shower jacket and throw that in the car after the camera. I bet you most of you do that. That shower jacket's dripping wet. It lands on top of the camera. Weather sealing comes in handy. There's little things like that where you get caught.
Exactly. And this lens is actually, I keep my equipment usually every time after I finish with it, I always give it a quick, lightly go over it. If you've been in a sandy place and you got that wonderful blower, have you, Grant? Could you grab me that blower, please?
Behind
Go on, no. Quite often, if I've been in a sandy place, I'll actually give it a light blow. So the worst thing you can do, now I'm not compensating for anything here, Grant. The worst thing that can happen is, especially if you're using, this is my Nature lens, and this is a 200 to 500 Nikon lens. And as you can see, that you can get a lot of telescopic with your lens. The worst thing is you get the granules down in between your lens. So another reason to always keep your camera gear clean. And I use quite often a nice strong blower. I'm glad you've picked this one, Grant. There's a lot of weak ones, but nice strong one. And you can go over your equipment. Quite often you'll find little granules just on the front of your lens, where your lens cap goes. And just giving a blow, as well as the lens cap, all these little areas. You'll see here quite often people put them in my pocket, which I put them in my pocket. But the thing is, you put them in your pocket and all the grime that's in your pocket will end up on your lens cap. So same sort of thing. You can give these a bit of a blow and just check over them. And if there is muck in there, you can always just grab one of these. And you know, these are, I love these. These are fantastic because they can just get into all these little tight areas. And this, as you can see, is pretty clean, is that you regularly do this. The other thing that I get from people is they're worried about spots on their cameras, lens spots. You can actually, and a lot of people are a bit too afraid to open their cameras up and clean their sensor. Today's sensors on most cameras are well protected. But in saying that, it's best to have a proper lens sensor cleaning tip. And I've heard different people say different things of how to clean a sensor. The one that I find is best is if you work your way from the top and you just go straight across and don't dig in there with anything, just do it nice and light across, turn around and go down and work your way down, a bit like cleaning a window. And that can help a lot, but I've never really had to do that. And the reason is, every time I change a lens, always have your camera down and keep your camera down when your lens is exposed. Same with your lens, and is to unclip that and to make sure that there's no dust and rubbish getting in there. And as you do it more, you get quick and easier at doing it. And that way, that if there is any rubbish flowing around in the air, that is less likely to land on your lens.
So, Brad, can we just tease that out a bit? If you were up in the Flinders in the middle of a dust storm,
yes,
and or a Death Valley or something, you know, and it's really nasty, and you wanted to change lenses,
yep,
would you A, hike back to the car? B, change it in the field, or C, just wipe off the shot and say bad luck? It ain't going to happen this time around.
Unless it's a complete sandstorm, which you probably wouldn't be able to see where you're going in. I always change in the field. I've changed in the field in windy areas where there is sand blowing. I usually shelter myself, find a sheltered area, or I'm a pretty big guy, I use myself as a shelter, put my back to the wind, and I quickly change the lens using that method. The other thing I do when I get back, if it is really bad conditions, as soon as I get back to the hotel, motel room or back home, is to do exactly this. I do a clean. If I've been in a bad environment, I do a clean straight away. And I will also take the cap off the camera. I put the mirror up. So if you rotate all cameras are going to be different. Put the mirror up, hold it upside down, grab your blower and blow it all around inside. And what that does is if there is any granules inside, that will also help to blow it out. And most cases, I've had that, that's all I've ever had to do. If there's been a spot on my sensor, each time I do that and give it a blowout, the spot's gone. I've never had anything really stuck on the sensor. And the reason I haven't had that stuck on the sensor is I'm regularly cleaning my equipment all the time.
And likewise, I concur with that. I'm very, very careful in the field in bad conditions. I'll think long and hard, but yes, I have hunched over with the jacket. Brad, just one thing with the blower. I always, when I take a blower out of the bag and it's been sitting idle for a while, and that could be, an hour or two, I always give it a few squirts first.
The blower itself? Yeah.
Before I use it.
It's satisfying for me. I've never really thought about it, but every time I grab a blower, I'm always like, okay, where's the camera gear?
But just in case any dust or any stuff
that is true
into the blower itself, giving it a couple of squirts gets rid of it, and you're not actually blowing it into your camera. Just a little thing. The
other thing that I try to do with all my lenses, and it's some lenses aren't possible. This is my general purpose lens, which Grant had mentioned before. This is my 24-70 2.8 lens. On these lenses, I actually buy a UV filter, and
throw it around like
I throw it on the ground.
They're really well made, folks, these ones.
I have to go and get it now.
You have to go and get that. Yep.
I don't normally drop things, but I do on camera. Yep. Hence why having UV filters is exactly that. So as long as I don't drop this. So
now, can I just pull you up here?
Yep.
I've got a few filters, the standard CPL and the UVs and whatever. I have UVs probably on most of these lenses, I think. But there's also a school of thought out there that it is a filter of any sort is another layer of glass between you and the subject, between your lens and the subject.
Yes.
I actually put more faith in my lens hood than I do the filter to protect my lens. I'm a great believer that if you're out shooting, and I know my wife, hello Anne, she and I have the odd robust discussion occasionally on this one, that she will leave the lens hood off. She will leave it in the bag or in her handbag or on the table or whatever. I'll say, put that bloody lens.
You're not going to get in trouble for this, are you? She's going to watch this video.
No, if I come back all bruised and battered, you'll understand.
I might be doing the next video myself.
But if you drop a lens or a lens falls off the tripod, Dave, remember? Capital Reef, tripod, lens, bang. Inevitably, apparently, I haven't tested this and I don't want to, but if it drops and it lands on the lens hood, it's only going to break that.
Yep.
More times than not.
It's
not that.
It's all about how far you want to take the risk. This one here, as I was saying, not all lenses you can do that with. This one I'm paranoid with. This is my 14-24 lens. And as you can see with this, you cannot put a filter on the front of it. So with this lens, I am extremely careful with. I'm careful with all my lenses, but that one I'm always paranoid about. Reason I like, especially from a general purpose lens, is as long as you get a very good quality UV filter on it. I myself haven't seen any issues through doing that.
Can you define good quality?
Define good quality.
Can you define it? What is good quality?
Well, it's what you personally think
So
is what you would think is personal good quality to yourself.
Is there any brand name you gravitate to when you're buying those filters?
Not really. This one here's a Kenco. I rely a little bit on the guy I buy my camera equipment from. They know I'm a bit of an enthusiast in different things, and there are various grades of filters on the front, and naturally as you put more filters on, it can cut down light coming through your lens. The little bit that this does, I think in my personal opinion is insignificant. But what I like about having a UV lens is when I'm out in the field, as I get into grimy situations and wet, which is raining at the moment, but is that when I'm out in the field, I don't have to worry. I can carry one of these in my bag, just a microfiber cloth, and as soon as I get a bit of water or anything on my lens, or a bit of dust or any grime that comes up, because it's always happening, I can just quickly go like that. I know I'm not worrying about scratching my lens. Most lenses are pretty good these days in any case. But I know that I can set up for a shoot, and quite often I'll just quickly go like this, and I know that I'm not going to damage my lens.
Interesting, Brad, that you haven't mentioned any lens cleaning fluids. You're only talking about using a bit of water and the right sort of cloth.
I don't like, and this is with all of my equipment, it's not only camera equipment that's important, it's also computers and monitors and screens and all the rest of it. You can buy fluids, like you're saying, that are specially designed for cleaning that. I am always have faith in just water. I'm not putting any chemicals on any of my equipment. I've kept equipment for a long time, probably not quite as long as some people have, but I think sticking with the basics and just doing it more often and keeping your equipment clean is far better than, I just worry about putting on chemicals that sit on something for a long period of time. So I prefer just to use something natural, like just a damp cloth, and using a really good microfiber towel. Don't use a cheap one, a nice soft one. One that doesn't leave fibres as well is very important. This is probably the best tool to have in your camera bag. Mine's in my bag there, somewhere in one of the pockets. But do I have to prove it? But yeah, this is definitely the most important thing to carry around with you. Also, one thing that a lot of people, I think, and I'm going to ask you in a minute, Grant, whether you have or not, forget to do is doing updates on your camera body. Is a lot of manufacturers, and they do it for a long time too, they will bring out new firmware updates. Actually, you know of a story about a firmware update. But manufacturers are always doing firmware updates, and make sure that you download the latest onto your camera bodies, because you'll find that a lot of them will do new features, and also any issues that, which I know of one photographer who lost his photos on a stick, on his camera card sticks, and it wasn't until he got home from a holiday that he realised that he had no photos from his holiday, and it was a little glitch that can happen with some certain type cards that were put in there, and it can happen. Also, with cleaning as well, is to be thorough with your camera bodies, and the biggest thing also is don't forget your bag. So I've pulled all my equipment out of my bag. The next step, and I actually do that after we finish this segment is I'm going to go grab the vacuum cleaner, and you'll be surprised your camera bags can be the filthiest place, even though it looks pristine, clean. You'll find that each time you open your camera bag, you're letting in dust and sand, and make sure when you open your camera bag, especially in a sandy environment, don't have it on the ground. And the worst offence I see, and I bet you've seen photographers do this, they pull their camera out of their bag and they leave it open on the ground. Oh, that's absolute shocker, because you not only you could be letting in, well, you will be letting in any rubbish flying through the air. Is how often have you seen somebody that comes along and sees a bag on the ground and goes, oh, I'll just move that over to there, and then everybody's camera gear just falls all on the ground into the dirt, and it's absolutely tragic. So take a few steps, keep things clean. Good time to do it now while we're in lockdown is to go over all your equipment. After you've wiped everything down, leave your camera gear out.
Water and then tip it over you.
Stay away. But make sure that you leave your camera gear out. Quite often I'll leave it out for a few hours to dry, because even though this is only just damp, you're always going to have just that little sneaking little bit of moisture around. Mind you, it does look pretty dry, but you always just make sure you don't want to put something away in a bag and it be a little bit damp. After you vacuum your bag, wipe it out with a different cloth. I have heaps of these things. Keep them separate. Always keep one of these clean in my bag just for the lenses, and I use the, and these can be washed as well. They're great things to have around.
So where are you buying those, Brad?
So you can buy them from your supermarket.
Okay.
As long as you don't get the real cheap ones. But they're pretty widely spread. Some pro photographers give them out as well. I got a couple from Ken Duncan at a couple of stages and that. It's basically usually in the laundry aisle is where I find them, like where your cleaning products are. Yep. And when you don't just go straight in and use them, get them out of the packet and make sure that they're lint free, or most of them are, but just make sure that they're a good quality one, because you can get some cheap ones and there's no sharp edges on it. As this one's just nice and soft. So that sounds good. Well, this is a bit of a lighter episode. If you do have any more questions, please do write them in the descriptions below, or send us an email, which is also in the description. Also, if you do have any photos that you would like Grant and myself to have a look at, we are working on the studio that we keep talking about, and you'll see clips as we progress with that. Naturally, shipping is a little bit slow at the moment, Grant, so we in times like this, we've just got to be patient. So at the moment, we're just using basically camera on a tripod, and doing a bit of a lighter type videos where you can look at equipment and look at how and clean your equipment. So once we get some suggestions through, let us know what you want to see on the channel, because we're open to anything on the lines of photography. I'll get it out in a minute. Make sure that you do write us a comment, and send us any photos or whatever you want us to have a look at, because we'd love to throw it up on a computer, and Grant and myself will have a go at it. And we'll also be doing a bit of webcam stuff, so it should be good.
Okay, so that'll conclude this episode, folks. So cheerio to our local viewers, but cheerio as well to our friends overseas, Jim, Dave in Canada, Kerrick and John in the United States, and certain young lady called Kylie. Take care, folks. We'll be back again soon.
Yep. So hit that subscribe and hit the bell, and give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and we'll have some different new content coming out later. So see you next time.